Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Personnel Committee this morning. I'm the chair of the committee, Councillor Paul Hazelgrave, and I'll leave colleagues to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Dominic Monaghan. I'm the Democratic Services Officer for this meeting. We also have Karen Squires and Lindsay Stevens from Democratic Services here today. The other officers on the call are Liz Moore, Paulette Brown and Tanya Hay. And then the other councillors on the call today are Councillor Holmes, Councillor Sandhu, Councillor Testro, Councillor Evans, Councillor McChrystal, and yourself, Chair, Councillor Hazelgrave. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to clarify, that's Councillor Alison Holmes. Yeah. Right, so have we received any apologies, Karen?
No apologies, Chair. Thank you.
Right. Oh, sorry, Dom. Yeah. I have no late items to be introduced. We're all familiar with the declarations of interest. I'm sure we've read through that and very familiar with it. Are any of us feeling in a position where they would need to declare a declaration of interest?
No, Chair.
Right, that's great. If something emerges in conversation and we feel that maybe it's wise of us to declare an interest at that point because of the nature of the discussion, then clearly at that point do raise that concern and we'll look at it at that time. Let's move then to item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of November. Thank you, Dom, for a very full account of what went on and a good summary for the record. Are there any issues about what's been recorded for pages 1 or 2? Page 3? Page 3 is fine. Right. Page 4, we had 7 recommendations that we dealt with, and we'll come to how they were responded to later on in the meeting rather than taking up time now. Then we come to page 4, the rest of page 4, page 5, page 6, with some resolutions there from the last meeting, page 7, the foot of the page there are some final recommendations, and that concludes the minutes. Is everyone happy that they're a true record, those of us who attended?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, we're happy.
Thank you very much. So we can sign those off as a true record. That's great. So we now come then to item 5, which is the apprenticeship project update. So who would like to talk us through that particular item?
Thank you, Chair. Tanya Hay here, the Apprenticeship Project Manager, and I will talk through the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
So this is an update paper that comes on a regular basis to the Personnel Committee, and it's the purpose of the paper is to update the committee on the apprenticeship project. Also, the purpose is to give an update on the levy payments and the drawdown, which will be updated as of the 14th of December. Also to provide, I was asked by the Chair to provide a comparison of the expired levy funds between Derby City Council and other local authorities, so I've put a comparison in the paper as well. And also to inform the committee of the disbanding of the Apprenticeship Board and the creation of a new Employment and Skills Board. So that is the purpose of the paper. So, and the recommendations are to note the update of the project and to note the levy payments and to note the comparisons and to note the disbanding and the creation of the new board. So those are the recommendations of this paper. So to go on to the supporting information, so the first item is to give you an update on the current project priorities. So of course We're still in the midst of the pandemic, and obviously the COVID-19 impact has been quite substantial on the delivery of our programs. So at the moment, all of our training providers are still delivering our programs, which is a very big plus, because in some areas, some providers have actually had to close down their delivery programs. So we're very fortunate that all of our programs are still going ahead, and they are now all online. There were, until we had the lockdown, minimal face-to-face sessions taking place where absolutely necessary, and that was for exams and assessments only. But at this point in time, we are still seeking advice from those training providers now as to whether those exams are going to actually be postponed. So we are actually in the throes of getting an update on that due to the recent announcement. So we will keep you posted on that. We are having regular account meetings to have updates on current situation and making sure that we are putting all the support required for our apprentices that are on programme at the moment. So that really is the main focus of our project at the moment, ensuring that our apprentices have everything they need to complete programme, to be honest with you. We do have a few green shoots. We are at the moment, we've got 3 adverts out for the new start apprentices within the business admin, because as you are aware, we have had a big downturn in the number of new starts, again due to the COVID impact. As you can appreciate, when we've got new starts, which tend to be the younger end of the workforce, so it's usually 16 to 18-year-olds, bringing people into the organisation, remote working and remote learning is, there's a lot of challenges around that, and it's quite complex. So we have had a downturn in our new starts, but we have got 3 business admin level 3s out for advert at the moment in service areas where they believe they can support new starts, and 2 of them are front facing. So that's a bit of good news for the new year that we're able to do that. We've also got encouraging signs with our workforce development programs as well. We've got several service areas who are expressing interest, and programs are going to be starting. Social worker degrees, we're starting 3 new social worker degrees with Nottingham Trent this month. We've got 2 executive leader MBAs started this month. We're hoping to move forward with some accountancy. We've got horticultural operatives starting next month, and HR support level 3 next month. So we have got some starting, and we've also had some further expressions of interest since we've come back in the new year, so we are progressing that within the team as well. Our leadership programme, very pleased to say this is moving on very successfully. We have had 2 chartered manager degrees completions, with 2 managers achieving distinctions within their apprenticeship programme. So we are very pleased with that successful outcome for themselves, and one of those managers has actually gone on to start the MBA in this month. So she's moved from the level 6 to the level 7, so we were really pleased with that. And I think,
Tanya, before you go on, I think the committee would like to signal that we're really pleased about this, and I think if other councillor colleagues agree, I think it would be nice to send them a letter congratulating them on their success, and hoping that it helps them to have more self-fulfillment and be more add more value to the organisation. So there's 2 sides to it. Yeah, would we be happy with that? Yeah, good. I was going to say the same thing for the new starters, but frame the letter in a different way, maybe that the committee is really pleased to see that they've taken this on, and we hope that they get lots out of it, and the work helps them to become more skilled in their work for the council.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we will arrange for those letters to go out to those people. Thank you, Chair. So we also have had several new starters from the leadership programme starting last September, which are moving on quite nicely as well. And we've also got, we have had some managers have take breaks in learning due to the current situation, but are now starting to return on programmes. So again, it's very positive that managers are feeling that they can now start to return on programme. So very pleased with that. 4.1.4, removal of the level 2 standards. You may be aware, I know some people are aware on the committee, maybe not everybody, that last summer there was the removal of the level 2 business administration standard and the level 2 teaching assistant standard, which has caused quite a lot of concern because they are our entry-level posts. And that's where the majority of our new starts come in at that level. So we have been exploring how we utilise other standards to support the continuation of new starters, and we are also engaging in a trailblazer group with the local authority, with the local government association and other public sector bodies to hopefully develop a level 2 which is a broad programme that is will be allow people to come in and varying administration positions across public sector, so that we can then continue to bring in the younger end of the workforce. So that is work that is actually starting this month. So we are engaging with that programme as well, that Trailblazer group there, to try and support that.
Thanks for that, Tanya. I do think it's very regrettable that the plug's been pulled on one kind of qualification as an entry level without an alternative being offered immediately, so that there's no hiatus between the two. Because obviously it's really important, I think, and it's even more important now with this COVID thing and so many children working at home, that when they're in school, if they're supported in any way, they get the best support they can possibly get with the most highly skilled people. And if teaching assistants haven't got a route to better themselves in terms of their skills and their understanding of what goes on in the classroom and the teaching process and learning process, you know, we're failing the young people in a sense. So I do hope that, and I'm really pleased that we are getting together with others to develop something to put in its place. But frankly, I think that should have been looked at. And you don't pull plugs on things of this importance. What we want to develop people in these really important areas. So let's hope that we get that successfully launched, and that it attracts attention. And it would be really important, I think, to let schools know, and maybe the unions which have teaching assistants, so that the unions could be informed, and maybe it could go through them as well, and we get as many people as possible who feel inclined to do that and see that as a career rather than just as a job, so that they've got a route to progression. I don't know if other members feel the same way, but I do think it's really important that we get some kind of career route for teaching assistants.
Can I speak, Chair?
Sorry, yes, of course you can, John.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, I'm in total agreement with you. It seems strange that why wasn't the business administration level 2 removed? I don't know the history behind that, but I'm in total agreement with you, Paul.
Thank you.
Councillor Evans, if I might add there, the ESFA, the educational, the Institute of Apprenticeships, deemed that the level 2 and the level 3 business admin were too close. There wasn't enough definition between the two courses, so they decided to remove the level 2. I might add there was national lobbying around this to the Institute and to the ESFA, and unfortunately it did fall on deaf ears. It was actually, you know, taken right to the ministers, to the policymakers, and there was meetings held, but unfortunately the decision was taken that for that removal, and that is why the LGA and the public sector bodies have come forward with this Trailblazer group, because there's a huge recognition there that there's a swathe of young people now that are going to struggle to get into apprenticeships. So there was a lot of opposition, and yes, we're a little bewildered why that decision was taken.
Thank you, Tanya.
So if there's no further questions, I'll move on to the levy payments. So this, as I say, is as of 14th of December. We have now transferred just over £2.5 million into the levy pot, and have drawn down just under 100,000. We've drawn down 953,000 for our training programs. So we have spent that amount of money on our programs. Unfortunately, we are in a position now where we are having expiration of funds, and that came into force last year, and we have had to pay back to the government 340,000. So there is a breakdown of our payments to the different training providers on Appendix 1, which shows you how many apprentices we have with each training provider, and the amount of money we're spending with each provider on a monthly basis. It also breaks down our expired funds on a monthly basis for you there for your information. So that's on Appendix 1 there. So that's sort of, if there's no questions around that further, I'll move on to the comparison that I was asked to put in. Now, the ESFA do not actually report on expired funds, so they do not give any. So they do not hold any comparison data. But what the LGA had done last year is they did a survey of all of the local authorities that are levy payers, and they surveyed 150 councils, large councils, and had a response from 96 of the councils. And if you go to well, on 4.3.2, it shows you the response rates from the regions for this survey, and the results were released in June 2020. Those are the last results we have at the moment. And if you go to Appendix 2, which I think is a separate document because it's a slideshow, which is an extract from that survey. I've just put the extract in from the levy spend and where the expiration of funds are, and I think it gives you a breakdown there of how where the funds have expired, and it gives you so they're based on the data that the LGA believe that councils have spent approximately 27.1% of their funds, and that has risen from 14% in 18 to 19, but there is a large expiration of funds, as you can see there. 89 councils who provided the figures have said the loss of funds is 13.74 million back to the government, which is an average loss of 155,000. So there is a national loss. That does go, when I say loss, we lose it from our pot, but it goes back into the national pot and is reinvested in apprenticeships in other areas. So although we haven't been able to spend it ourselves, it does go back nationally to support the apprenticeship agenda. So that's what happens to those expired funds there. So, and also the last slides show around transfers as well, because you may be aware that we are allowed to transfer 25% of our fund to local businesses and small businesses in the area. So that gives you a breakdown of nationally of how many other local authorities are engaging in transfers of funds as well. We currently are engaging in the transfer. We transfer to 2 local organisations at the moment, and we are working with the Economic Regen Service, who lead on this, to expand that and raise awareness so that we can further utilise our transfer allowance. So I thought it was useful to put those slides in there as well for you so you could see.
I think that's really good news as well, that we are getting down to using businesses in the locality that we think could actually attract people into apprenticeships, particularly first start apprenticeships, because it's really so important that we give our young people every chance, and nice clear chances that are well publicised and will grab their attention, so that we get as many of our young people as possible in these awful circumstances to get a leg up in life and see a way through to some kind of future for themselves. So I hope committee agrees with that.
I totally agree with you, Chair.
Yes, agree.
Thank you. Thank you. And finally, 4.4, the Apprenticeship Board. Now, the Apprenticeship Board was established in 2018 when we first started to embark on spending the levy, and it, as it says, it was totally focused on apprenticeships. So as the climate has changed and we are now trying to link our services a lot more and utilise our services and do a lot more partnership working, the board at the meeting of the 2nd of November agreed that the Apprenticeship Board was too narrow, and that so what the decision was taken was to disband that board and create a new board, which is Employment and Skills, which would be a cabinet member board, which would encompass all the incentives and all the employment and skills agenda together in one board, to make it more streamlined so we can work in a more partnership and streamlined way. Because as you will be aware, there are current incentives that the government are putting out there, like the Kickstart programme. We've got the apprenticeship incentive programme. So there are lots of incentives out there that we thought would be better pooled if we had one board which would focus on that. So the consensus was that that would be a more inclusive way of working. Councillor Williams would be the chair of the proposal is that Councillor Williams would chair the board. There would be the service director from Learning, Inclusion and Skills. There would be the head of adult learning, the head of economic growth, and the head of organisational development. So as you can see, there are key service areas there that would come together and pull their resources to make sure that we take full we utilise those incentives fully for the city. So that was the decision that was taken on November the 2nd, which the decision was taken before the board, the Personnel Committee sat on the November the 16th. So the actions that came out of that Personnel Committee, the proposal is that we carry forward those actions to when the new board has been created, and they would form their first actions for that new board, because unfortunately the board disbanded before Personnel Committee sat on the 16th of November. So That's
Right,
the
Tanya.
proposal.
Yeah, well, I think that's a sound proposal. It's clear that there was a will of the committee that those issues be dealt with. If it's a new body that deals with them, then that body should clearly have that tabled for them to consider. I think it's a good move, really, to make sure that it's a wider scope in terms of there will be a bigger need. There's an awful kind of looming sense that there's going to be a lot more difficulty in the job market, shall we say, and that there will be some people who will lose their jobs, unfortunately, because some businesses just won't be able to survive this protracted period of not getting footfall through the door, etc. I do hope that board does remember that one of the key things that it has to look at is the apprenticeship scheme and make sure that that's running, so that there's a bigger picture, but the apprenticeship scheme is key to it, I think, in terms of our young people. And obviously for people in the authority who want to better themselves, or that's not quite the term, seek further training and personal development. And I'm pleased that, and I'm sure the rest of the committee will be pleased that all these points that we made, which should have been considered by a board which didn't actually exist when we formulated that, will be considered by the new board. But we also wish the new board every success in their work. Sorry, carry on, please, Tanya.
Yes, that concludes the paper.
Right.
So if there are any further questions from anybody, I'm very pleased to take them, but that concludes my paper. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tanya. Colleagues, any questions? No? Thank you for a very informative and well-structured report that deals with everything in a very digestible way. And I was particularly interested in the slideshow that we had there on the whole levy thing, and putting it into a context. I think it is helpful. It was helpful for us, or has been helpful for me, to put that into a context that, it's a national issue, and we do obviously have exceptional national circumstances at the moment that's going to put anything like the whole thing about apprenticeships into a real deep dive, which we hope it will come out of. Right, so if that's that, then looking back at the what we're asked to do in terms of recommendations. 2.1, to note the update on the apprenticeship project and the current key areas of work. We are happy to note that, I'm sure. To note the levy payments made to date, the drawdown for training programmes that we've instigated, and expired fund as of the 14th of December 2020. I'm sure we're happy to note that. To note the comparison of expired levy funds between Derby City Council and other local authorities. Yes, well, that has been helpful to us. And 2.4, to note the disbanding of the Apprenticeship Board and the creation of the new Employment and Skills Board. And we've dealt with all those, and we're happy to do those. We did, there were some recommendations in terms of letters to people, which I know we've taken on board, and we could include those as in the summary of what our resolutions were, I think. Yeah, just for the record, so that it doesn't slip our attention. If everybody's happy, we can move on then to attendance management and wellbeing update. Item 6. Who will be dealing with this?
Thank you, Chair. It's myself, Liz Moore, Head of HR. I'll take the committee through the report if I may, Chair. Thank you.
By all means, Liz. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
So this report most of it is a standard report that the committee will be used to seeing, where we bring a brief update on the council's performance on attendance management, and this report covers Q2 of the current financial year. But also the other purpose of the report, which I'd like to draw the committee's attention to, is to provide an update on the usage of our external employee assistance programme during Q2, because this was something that the committee had asked for at our last meeting in November. So if I can just highlight some of the key points and then bring us back to the recommendations, Chair, if I may. Just to highlight the performance of the Council on attendance management for Q2 was 2.73 days lost per full-time equivalent colleague against a target of 2.36 days. So it's a slight increase against our target compared to Q1 of the year. But if we look back to the same period in 2019-20, in the previous year, it's actually a slight decrease. So we're on a, excuse me, a decreasing trend from the previous financial year, but in the second quarter of the year, we're just very slightly up on our performance in the first quarter. Again, perhaps not surprising, Chair, because of course, as you've been referencing and Tanya has in relation to the apprenticeship report, we are of course still in the middle of the global pandemic, which can have an impact on people's health and well-being. But as the committee will be aware, because we discussed this at our meeting in November, and the report covers this again today at 4.1.4, managers do continue to work very closely with colleagues who might be absent for a range of reasons for their absence, including possibly stress and anxiety, but other reasons, of course, to offer support to enable them to hopefully be able to return to work, whether that's working virtually or back in this COVID-safe work environment if their role requires it. And you'll be aware from our previous committee report that we still continue to make significant efforts during the pandemic to offer an extensive wellbeing offer to our colleagues, and the other points that I'll draw out from the report, Chair, I hope reinforce that point. So I would like to draw the committee's attention to section 4.2, and this is the section of the report that picks up the request from committee in November to have a little bit more information about, have we seen an increase in usage of our employee assistance programme that's externally provided, which is available, one of our many strands of support that's available to support colleagues at any time, not just during a pandemic, but the committee was particularly asking, well, have we seen an increase in people seeking additional support or advice or information? And if I just draw out perhaps some of the key points from this section, you'll see that we have an arrangement in place where we have an external provider to provide employee assistance, and it is available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It is a confidential service. There's both a website feature, and I'll come on to that in a moment, as well as a phone line that people can contact, or a text line if they need to access by that means. They provide a range of advice on a variety of issues, including health, financial matters, as well as general well-being. And as I've mentioned, they do provide they have an online presence which colleagues can access at any point that's convenient to them, and also if they don't feel that they need or want to speak to somebody on the end of a phone. So at 4.23, there is some anonymised information that has been provided by the Employee Assistance Programme provider. And I should just stress, Chair, just for the committee's clarification, which I'm sure they appreciate, that this is a confidential service that is provided. So the Council funds this arrangement for its colleagues who work at the Council, but we don't get to hear who, on an individual basis or on a service basis, has made contact with the provider, because obviously that's not the purpose of the arrangement. But you'll see from 4.23 that there has been an increase on a number of the functions provided by the EAP in Q2 compared to Q1. So, for example, in the first bullet point, the number of counselling sessions increased from 44 in the previous quarter to 59. And also the number of clicks or hits on the websites that they provide had increased from 182 in Q1 to 264. Again, there was a 49% increase in the clicks and hits on the mental wellbeing support page on the website, and that guidance is there to help individuals manage their own wellbeing, and what they can do to help support their mental health and wellbeing. So seeing that 49% increase, I think, could in many ways, Chair, be seen as positive in the sense of colleagues are accessing information that's there and are using some of the support that's available to them. And again, during Q2, 22% of all the hits and clicks were on the COVID support page. So of the increase in clicks and hits on the website, 22% of all of those hits were on the specific COVID support page. And as I just mentioned a moment ago, perhaps it's not surprising that we have seen an increase, and I'm sure probably committee members won't be surprised to see that because of the current status of the pandemic, and obviously we were also within the pandemic during Q2. And as the committee is aware, the EAP is one of a number of wellbeing support options that we make available. We have mental health first aiders in the council. We have a comprehensive online facility as well that signposts colleagues to internal support within the council. council and external avenues and options for support and advice and information. And if I may, Chair, just draw the committee's attention as well to section 4.3. Committee members will remember that in the report in November, we provided some headline information about a wellbeing survey that we'd carried out in June, where we had surveyed our colleagues who wanted to participate in how they were feeling in terms of their wellbeing during the pandemic. And that survey was particularly an online survey, perhaps for those colleagues who were working remotely, and having to manage working in quite a different way than they would normally be used to, as well as it being available to other staff who are still coming in and delivering services on the front line, as it were. So we carried out a further updated survey in November to see were we still seeing similar results, similar positive results to the survey in June. And again, just for the committee's attention, Chair, I thought it might be helpful just to have included those headlines at 4.3.1, which out of just over 1,000 online surveys being completed, which is encouraging, you can see that there are some quite positive, I think, results there in terms of headline results of colleagues feeling that they know how to access wellbeing support. 87% of those respondents saying they know how to access wellbeing support, whether that's the employee assistance programme that we've just been talking about or the range of other support that we signpost colleagues to. People feeling connected to their teams, feeling well informed, 90% feeling safe with current working arrangements, and 64% feeling valued by senior managers. So we have seen a very slight downward trend from the responses in June, just slight, perhaps 2 to 3%, but possibly, Chair, this might be expected due to in June we were only perhaps a few months into the pandemic situation. Obviously by November we were, had experienced further months of a different way of adapting to the current situation. But overall, I hope the committee would recognise that the results are still positive overall. We're not being complacent at all about those results, and we are still, very actively encouraging managers to continue the support meetings and contact that they have with their teams where people are working remotely. And obviously we have a number of teams and managers who are working safely, socially distanced, but closely still, on the front line as well. And senior management are also considering how they can maintain visibility with teams, particularly when people are remote working. So I hope that's been helpful, Chair, to perhaps particularly draw out the query that had come up in November about the Employee Assistance Programme, but also to provide an up-to-date position in terms of the wellbeing survey. And if I may, Chair, I just draw the committee's attention back to the two recommendations at 2.1 and 2.2, which are around noting the performance on attendance management in Q2, which I've taught the committee through, and also to note the usage of the Council's external Employee Assistance Programme during Q2. Thank you, Chair. I'll pause there, and obviously if there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to pick those up. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Again, a well-structured and very informative report. On the attendance management performance issue, I do really think it's important as a committee we look at trends rather than variations from quarter to quarter, because there can be all sorts of external factors. There is clearly one massive external factor at the moment that could be relevant to any kind of drop. But the trend is downward, and if that's continued, even if it's baby steps, so to speak, then any trend downward is great, because it means we're losing less money to all sorts of things like agency for social workers and really expensive people coming in to do jobs and obviously fill it in rather than starting straight off and being straight into the swing of things, etc. So on that, I hope committee would agree that we do need to, but obviously we need to look at it quarterly, because we're going to see those figures, but that we need to see and be looking for a trend, and that if there's a clear trend, then a rethink needs to be done. If it's a sudden blip, we can't start redrawing everything. We could actually do more damage than good. On the Employee Assistance Programme, it's really good to see that that was there in the first place, and that it's clearly getting lots of use, and that hopefully has helped to keep our figures not as bad in terms of days lost, etc., because there's that support network there from specialised people. It's all done anonymously, and we wouldn't want to know. Clearly it wouldn't be right to know who's involved, but it's great that that service is there, and that that it's been used. And I think you're absolutely right that, you know, the fact that there are more people using it is a good thing, because it means they're having recourse to support rather than suffering in silence, and that there's a mechanism there that the council's provided that people are confident to use. On the well-being approach, I see on the second survey there's one thing I do think we should know as a committee, and I know it's only a small sample, it's just over 1,100, just under 1,100 people involved. But there's one new area that wasn't on the last one, which is felt safe with current working arrangements, which is a good thing to bring in, and it's great to see that 90% of people who responded feel that. And you know, I mean, at 1,000 people, I think you can get a good snapshot of what people generally feel. The figure that's more concerning, but it's still a positive figure, is the number of people, percentage who felt valued by senior management. And I think that needs to be looked at, and I think HR should be doing some work with managers at all levels, not just senior managers, about how they communicate that they value their colleagues down the chain, so to speak, because it goes from 88% last time who valued their managers, or I think it was just their managers last time, it's now senior managers, it's down to 64%. It could be that the change of the way it's being asked is relevant to the answer you've got. People may feel more remote from senior managers and might have been less inclined to say yes. But if you'd have been talked about their line manager, they hopefully do feel they're valued by their line manager. So it might be worth looking and teasing that out in two separate questions next time to see if there is a clear thing. But I mean, obviously, there's no point in going. We ought to have another survey soon, I think. We're obviously back into a big lockdown, and that's going to have impact on all sorts of things, notwithstanding the fact that people are working from home. You know, they are more isolated in terms of all kinds of social contact, and it's therefore more important that the managers contact them and are supportive, you know, etc. That's the only comments I'd have to make. I hope the rest of the committee are in agreement largely with what I've been putting forward. And I would want now to ask other members of the committee if they have anything to add or question. No? Right, so going through the two recommendations, we are happy, I hope, to note what it says there at 2.1 and note and commend the usage of the Council's EAP during Q2, and that we as a committee are very pleased that that service is there and is being used. And I do think really on the well-being and approach, sorry, I muted because I was going to cough. I think on the well-being approach, it's heartening to see a continuing positive response to everything. I think the comments I made about the senior valued by senior management's issue needs to be looked at and maybe teased out in terms of the way the next survey is framed, but try and keep the same questions, otherwise you don't know what you're getting in terms of answers.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take that back.
And I think as well, maybe some discussion at some level about how, in case there is an issue about people losing confidence that they are being valued, that there's some kind of work with senior managers and their teams, you know, of managers to make sure that the right message is getting across and that it's not implicit, it's explicit. Yeah, and I think that's all I'd want to add to the recommendations. Are there any other recommendations that colleagues would like to put forward? And are they happy with that recommendation I've suggested? Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, we're happy.
Yeah. Good.
Yep, happy.
Yeah,
Right.
very good.
Okay, smashing. So if we're happy with all that, then it's nice to have met you all. We've gone through that very efficiently and professionally, and I hope that we do have a meeting in February as well, don't we? on a one issue thing which was devolved to us from full council. Yeah, so a paper will come out on that. We've got a date for that, haven't we?
Yeah, it's the 25th of February, Chair.
20th, yes, right, yeah. So I hope we've all accepted that. It'll be a one issue agenda, and hopefully we'll come to some kind of response to that when the paper's been tabled and we've digested it and discussed it. Okay, so on that then I'll close the meeting. Thank you, colleagues, for coming along. I hope anybody who's been tuning in on YouTube has found the thing interesting or partially interesting, I hope at least. And we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much to officers for all the help they've given as well. Cheerio, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Bye. Thank you, Chair.
Bye.